When it comes to exercise programming, a lot of people don't talk a lot about rest, but that's of vital importance to your success, your health, and your consistency over a long period of time. And there's three kinds of rest that I want to talk about. The first is rest between exercise sets. The second is rest that happens during the week. And third is rest that occurs when you change programming or every 3 or 4 months or so. So the first one's rest between exercise sets. That's the one most people are familiar with. It's you do a set and you rest. A lot of that has to do with what your goals are, what you're going for. If you're doing more strength training, if you're lifting really heavy weights and you're doing less reps of them, you're going to need more rest between each exercise. It's because the muscles fatigue and there's a lot going on internally, the nervous systems, things along those lines that need to reset because you're lifting such heavy weights. With rest on other things like maybe building muscle or trying to become a little bit more fatigue resistance, your rest is going to be a little less. So if you're doing something like going for endurance and doing a lot of reps or something, you're going to have very short periods of rest between each exercise. So again, when it comes to rest with exercise, how you've programmed it out, what your goals are. If you're going to lift for strong, heavy weights, that's going to be a longer rest than if you're doing something for more endurance. Keeping that heart rate up, your rest is going to be a lot shorter as it goes through. So that's a lot of what people know, rest between sets. And it's important to put it in there. A lot of people will skip over rest, but it's important to put it in between exercises. It'll set you up to be successful. It'll set you up to succeed in all your sets without failure. And you don't get as fatigued as often. And there's a lot of importance behind it. And I could go on for hours about it, but I'm not going to. What I want to talk about next, though, is rest during the week. And this depends on how much you get, depends on where you are in your, in your progress with exercise. Are you a beginner? Are you someone who's been doing this for many years, somewhere in between? That's how it's important. If you're a beginner, if you're just starting out in exercise, if this is new to you, rest is really important. And I would say doing it 2 to 3 times a week. Rest being not going to the gym or not doing a hard workout doesn't mean just sitting on the couch and watching TV. Instead, it's more along the lines of maybe going for a walk, doing a very light exercise for the day, something along those lines. You're new, so your muscles need a little extra time to adjust to what's happening to them, the stress you're putting this under. So giving yourself that a bit of rest is important physiologically. It's also important mentally when you're new, as it gives you a chance to take a little bit of a rest before you go back into it. Don't burn yourself out, fatigue yourself mentally with it all. So adding in about 2 or 3 days of rest when you first start is a great thing to do. As you become more and more advanced, you can take some of those rest days out and add in exercises. People that are very advanced will work out 6 days a week and only take 1 full day off. But the thing is, when it comes to rest in this period, this is the time every week is when you're actually building up your strength. This is actually what's happening. The exercises themselves break down the muscle, do all of the other stuff, but that isn't where you become stronger. It's where the rest happens, is where the strength happens. It's where you rest your muscles and allow them to be rebuilt and grow a little bit, is where that happens. So in this respect, rest is extremely important for your long-term success, because if you never rest, or you don't give your muscles and times and your heart and lungs time to actually take a break every once in a while, you're not going to adapt positively to the work you're doing. And you're actually, more than likely, if you don't rest at all, you'll find yourself going backwards, losing muscle, losing endurance, becoming a little tired. It's a thing called overtraining. I'm not going to talk about that either, but that's a whole different process that you want to get into. So 2 to 3 days if you're brand new, if you've been working out for a long period of time, years, probably already know this, but 1 day a week is pretty standard for that thing to rest. And last is rest when it comes to changing your programming, or about every 3 months or so. Um, without going into old, a lot of the Olympic style or athletic style programming, about every 3 months, there's a bit of a change that happens with a lot of athletes in terms of how they change their training. So that's sort of where I'm talking about, where this is coming from. But about every 3 months, if you've been working out consistently for the 3 months, taking your rest as you're going through this, you're gonna want to take a longer rest. And what I mean by that is you want to take about a week off every 3 months. So what that's doing to you is it's helping your muscles really start to grow. It gives them a chance to sort of to reset, and it gives you a chance to sort of mentally reset before you get back into it again. I noticed this a lot when I was training some people with some of my clients with powerlifting. Is that every 3 months I would give them a week off, and they would typically come back, and I see this a lot overall, but they typically came back and they were able to lift heavier, they were in a better mood, their spirits were high, they were a little less fatigued, a little less burned out on things. So when it comes to exercise in that respect, taking a week off every quarter will do a lot of benefit, mostly with your strength, but also again for your mental awareness and your mentality around exercise. It's something that you want to think about doing too. So when you break this down again, with workouts, you want to rest, depending on the programming, between 20 seconds to 2 minutes. Again, it depends on what you're doing. You want to rest between 1 to 3 days a week, depending on if you're an advanced person or you're just starting out. And then every 3 months, I would say take a week off. I mean, I didn't say this earlier, but what I mean by that is light exercise, going for walks, taking time away, doing things that aren't specific to the exercise you're doing. This is also a great time. I forgot to mention that too. This is also a great time if you're going to transition to something else. If you're coming out of like strength training and you want to go into something more like hiking or cycling or something along those lines, taking that week off as a transition is always a really good idea too. So if you're planning ahead, that's what you can do with that. I hope that makes sense to you. If you want more information on it, please feel free to reach out. I promise I won't talk your ear off too much about it. But if it's confusing to you in any way, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.